Dude, America first! America first! Get that through your head! Dude, America first! America first! You heard that before? What? America first! America first! What the hell, man? Dude, America first! America first! To all of you, let me explain one damn thing. America, America, America. Dude, you understand? America, America, America. My point is America's first. America, America, America. What the hell, man? Globalists, no! Goblins, no! This is it. Everybody get ready! America first! America first! Get that through your head! Dude, America first! America first! You heard that before? What? America first! America first! Get that through your head! America first! America first! And get the fish oil.
Oh, the rich people hat, yeah. What is that hat, by the way? I swear, every time I see people on, like, foreign cars or some shit, they always got this hat, and they never have jewelry. Like, they always drive the nicest cars. What is that? A Yamaha? I thought that was a dirt bike, bro. Let me see, Yamaha. I could have swore a Yamaha was, like... Yeah, no, it's not a Yamaha, bro.
Now please remain standing for the national anthem and the Black national anthem by the Turner sisters, Jaliyah and Jamila Turner.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the glistening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the hope that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the faith that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory is won.
Let us march on until victory is won, chat. Yes, I thought there's no possible better way to start this stream of all streams than with the Black National Anthem, though, that you could take a knee for this man right here, my good friend, Mr. Vox Day.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Can't complain. How much of the anthem did you get there?
I've heard it many times, John.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Big fan. Big fan.
How's life? This has been a weird couple of weeks in a lot of ways. For me, not for you so much. I mean, it's been business as usual, I think, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, I'm in a good mood because this showed up today. This is the Promethean.
Oh, this was this?
Library Buddies. Yeah, and what I think is really cool about the design is like some folks haven't figured out. They're like, that's kind of an interesting design. Where do you come up with that idea? I'm like, it's like literally a matching book for missionaries. Although, the author wrote them 50 years apart. And so the connection between the book is literally one character who appears in like 2 pages of the newer one. But
wow,
just brilliant books, both of them.
So is it as brilliant? I haven't read it yet. I've read the first one. The Missionaries is one of the best books I've ever read. But do you think it's going to be as brilliant as this?
Well, of course not. I mean, obviously, Andrew Tate is the height of English language publishing, and it's all over now, and society might as well go ahead and collapse because who's ever going to achieve that level of literary excellence again?
That's fair. Yeah, it's definitely fair to say. Oh my gosh. So guys, if you don't know who Vox Day is, Vox has a wonderful publishing house called Castalia House. He also has Archaven, which does comics. And Castalia is really just, I mean, I was so excited when these leather books came out because for me, it just became like a reminder every couple months that I just need to read actual books. And we're in a post-literate society, as Vox always says. And so Vox is not only just finding some of the best books like out there that are just fiction books over the last several decades here too, but there's also classics and philosophy books and things like that along with it. So you get a real diversity of books, I would say, is actually the way to phrase it.
Yeah, in fact, we launched our history subscription about just over 6 months ago. It's 75% as big as a library subscription already. We're launching our first Chinese language line, and that's going to be interesting. We're starting with 4 of the ancient classics, and I don't really expect to sell many of them on this side of the Pacific, but we have a lot of good friends over there, and so it's going really well, and we're this close to getting the bindery in full operation. So that's the real game changer, because that will let us do any type of paperback, any type of hardcover, any type of leather. Although I did learn that you shouldn't call people up in Norway and ask them about the availability of whale leather. they said,
leather,
they're like, "Where are you? Are you calling from somewhere in the EU?" I'm like, "Maybe." Why? They're like, "Well, it's illegal there." I was like, "Okay, never mind." So
wow,
there goes Owen's dream. Well, Owen Benjamin really dreamed of one day having a copy of Moby Dick
in whale leather,
in a specific sort of whale leather, and so. I mean, the thing is, we look into all this stuff because, we're all about the quality. And what we've learned is that our subscribers and our book buyers, they want serious quality, no matter what it is. Doesn't matter whether it's an ebook, a paperback, or, a $500 goat skin leather book, with real gold on it. And so we're even looking to source Japanese mulberry paper, because that lasts like, instead of hundreds of years, it lasts thousands of years. And
Wow.
then I found out that we'd have to charge about $5,000 a book. And I thought, well, maybe we'll leave that for some other day. But
we've got an Archaven contributor, the Quaff here, who's actually posting his comic in the chat here. So guys, check this out. Speaking of quality, the Quaff's Shotgun Samurai is a lot of fun, and you'll enjoy it a lot.
I like Shotgun Samurai a lot. In fact, Quaff, post it more often. We love it. It's different. It's different than any other comic on there. And that my only criticism is that I'd like to see more of it more often on our tunes. I say this after having completely neglected to post my daily text episode. So we've got a lot of great fiction on there. In fact, John C. Wright, Chuck Dixon, myself, it's got text episodes. But when I was talking about quality, just today, we published Chuck Dixon's second Chuck Dixon's Conan novel.
I saw that. I'm excited for this. Let me pull up your blog post on this so we can grab it on the screen here, because the cover's beautiful.
Yeah, it's called Caravan of the Damned. But what's interesting about this, and the reason I'm talking about quality, is that we actually are bringing back the chapter heading illustration, not just the chapter heading illustration, but we're doing full page chapter illustrations by the artist Adamir, who illustrated this great cover. And it's not a big deal, but it really does improve the experience. I mean, how many of us, when we were young, read the Chronicles of Narnia and had our view of Narnia and the children and the White Witch affected by those great chapter heading illustrations that the editions had back then?
Right.
I'm older than you are. Maybe you're, maybe you young ones.
I don't think I had them. Yeah.
So, but I really liked how they used to do that, and so we're bringing that back. And in fact, when we do Dracula for Castelia Library, we're actually planning. We have a full set of illustrations for that done already.
Oh wow! I didn't even know you were doing Dracula. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't think we've announced that yet, so maybe don't tell anyone.
Okay, make sure to tell anybody. Chat.
Sounds good.
Good stuff.
Yeah, everybody.
So lots
in the
of fun
chat,
stuff happening over in this corner of the internet. What's interesting is you guys might not hear about it because Vox just is not on Twitter, and Vox is not on YouTube, and so you just he's on his own kind of corner here with Social Galactic, with unauthorized.tv, which is his streaming service that he runs himself, which we're also live on right now, and also on the blog here, voxday.net. So it's you're just quietly working away, and you've been doing so for a long time. What's interesting is if you look at the people who just rabidly hate you, and I use the word rabid intentionally, they always accuse you of going in and co-opting movements and being a grifter and all this stuff. And yet I've seen you work harder to preserve the English language, to put out quality prose that's not only yours, but of other authors. I don't know how many people would know much about Owen Stanley if you really didn't, push his book so hard. And the guy's a brilliant writer. Right. So you quietly work a lot harder than everybody else. And that's what always kind of drew me to you back in the day. Like where does this fake reputation of a provocateur come from, you think? Is it just because they just get triggered by some things you say on your blog? Because that's the only spot you're at.
Well, I think part of it is genuine. I think part of it is projection. And, the genuine part is, I don't care about the same things that most people do. I'm not autistic. I don't have any problem reading people's emotions and understanding people's feelings, but I am wired differently enough that a lot of the things that most people care about, I simply don't. People often they're like, oh, well, you don't care about money because your family was wealthy. And my response to that is, I had my first record contract at the age of 22, and I sold 6 million games by the time I turned 27. So that's why I don't care. because I know, the whole more money, more trouble thing is real, and I'm not saying that it's not, and for a lot of people, it's not better than the alternative. I'm just saying that it's not the be all and end all. And so when you've got people that are, obsessed with their identity as a best-selling author or a mainstream writer, that sort of thing, it's just not relevant to me. Like, I don't even, most of my friends and acquaintances over here in Europe don't even know that I've written any books. I think I was playing on my current soccer team for 8 years before anybody even had any idea that I had ever written a book. It's not something I talk about. It's not something part of my daily life. So I think that's part of it. But then there's also a genuine element to it. For example, my wife, forget me. My wife just got kicked off Twitter today. Again.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Really? Because her Twitter account, no offense, like her Twitter account was way better than your Twitter account ever was by far.
Yeah, what can I say? She's funny, but
what did they allegedly get her for? What did they claim was the problem?
I think she said something like, actually, I'm not even going to say it because
I might get kicked off YouTube.
Yeah, but it wasn't a big deal. It was mm-hmm. Let's just say, well within the range of the current political discourse. But
okay,
but I think what really, if I had to guess, when we talk about the psychological projection element of it, I think that I've always had problems with people who wear an important mask. And what I mean by that is a mask that's important to them. Because for better or for worse, for whatever reason, I not only find it easy to see through those masks, but people pick up that I do. And that tends to upset them a lot. Like, for example, and the funny thing is, I'm usually not doing so in a judging way. I'm just observing. I'm just seeing what is there, and I don't hide that I know it. So, for example, John Scalzi wrote, his big book, Old Man's War. It's the only good book that he's ever written. And it was obvious to
I thought Red Shirts was 2/3 of a good book.
Red Shirts was a clever idea, but it wasn't well executed. And
once he got into his like little attempts, because honestly, I like the little parody of Star Trek, and if it was just that and simple and just a ripoff of Star Trek where he's just kind of having a little fun with it, it was fun. But once he got into his little literary crap at the end, like it was like it felt like he was talking down to his audience, and
not only that, he was trying too hard.
Yes,
I know when I'm trying too hard. If you want to read a book where I try too hard, read The Wrath of Angels.
Okay.
It's got subtexts up the wazoo. And literally no one picked up on any of them at all. And that was actually what led to A Throne of Bones, because I just said no more subtext, no more attempts at literary pyrotechnics, just tell a good story with good characters. Which for me was a bit of a come down, because I'd always wanted to be Umberto Eco. he was my model. I mean, if you look at my career, you know, I had the newspaper column, I wrote the nonfiction, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, I'm comfortable now with the fact that I will never write a book as good as The Name of the Rose. That's fine. That's okay. You know, none of us are going to write Lord of the Rings either. That's okay too. But the problem is
I'm going to write Dragonflight though. I'll tell you that right now.
I am skeptical. I'm deeply skeptical. You know, that is Anne McCaffrey, believe it or not, is the only writer who ever made me cry.
Oh yeah, she's super good emotional. Which book made you cry? Was it The White Dragon?
Nope, it was the end of Dragon Drums, and I finished the book.
Okay.
And I was about 10 years old. I finished the book. I looked out the bay window of my parents' kitchen. Lovely backyard, suburban Minnesota. You know, hills, trees, a lake. And I looked up at the sky and I realized I would never see a dragon flying through it.
Aww.
And I was just overcome. You know?
It wasn't like Master Robinson dying or anything like it was just you wanted a dragon.
I live in the abstract. Okay. You know, I don't relate to things like that. You know what I mean? You know, so anyhow, people project, you know, people, and so they interpret my actions through their own filters, their own emotions, their own motivations. And so, for example, you know, to do what I do, to say what I say, they would have to be, you know, in attack mode or something. You know, and you know, like for example, you know, maybe you're dating a girl who's very touchy. You know, like she's always touching people and hugging people. And, you know, if you're not a touchy person, that's going to bother you because in order for you to be touching people like that, you'd have to be intimate with them. You know, so,
right.
So you're constantly feeling like this person is acting like they're intimate with all these people when they're not. And so I think a lot of the vitriol stems from that. I think it also stems a bit from the fact that midwits just can't stand people who are genuinely and objectively and clearly much smarter than they are. You know,
that's fair. I've come across that a lot.
Highly intelligent people aren't bothered at all. You know, I've known people who had, you know, incredibly high IQs, and it never occurred to them to bother much one way or the other about it. So I've never bothered much one way or the other about it. You know,
well, for me, when I find somebody who's smarter than me, I just go, "Wow, I want to collect this person and talk with them because this is a treasure." You know,
when I met Dr. Echo, I was, you know, fascinated by him. I actually blatantly abused my position at the St. Paul Pioneer Press to mislead to mislead his agent into thinking that I was like the culture reporter. I was actually the video game reviewer. But
nice.
So they set this up at this, you know, fancy hotel. He was staying at the nicest hotel in downtown Minneapolis, and I was also at the time I was on the board of a TV station, and I met the night before. I was sitting next to a guy who had a camera crew, and so I was telling him all excited about this interview, and he said, "Well, I can hire. I'll give you a deal, and you can hire one of my camera crews." And so that was a fun one explaining to my wife. By the way, I spent a lot of money to hire a camera crew. So hire the camera crew, go there, have a great interview, goes great. And then he invites me to go to St. John's with him because he's going to go visit a monastery. You know, how very, you know, Umberto Eco monastery, get it? And so, you know, how can I miss that? So next thing you know, I'm calling my wife, telling her, Yeah, I'm going to be gone all day and maybe till late tonight because I'm going down to St. John's with Umberto Eco. So I basically like picked his brain for hours,
Wow.
and then got to film him getting interviewed by these other folks. And it was really, fascinating because, I mean, this is the maestro. This is, brilliant man, probably the greatest living public intellectual of the last 30 years of the 20th century. And so, yeah, if someone's smarter than you, especially if you're highly intelligent yourself, that's like a treasure. It's not something that you get to experience often. But midwits don't feel that way. Midwits are used to being, the smartest boy in the classroom. But if you think of how many classrooms there are around the world, there's an awful lot of these smartest boy in the room, right? And they don't deal well. It's like the high school athlete who gets to college and realizes that he's, just another guy. And anytime something punctures your sense of identity, it's difficult to accept. And I think that it's very common to lash out when your identity is threatened. I mean, like this whole thing that's been going on with, the Bain Ankle Biters Brigade attacking you. Yeah. The reason I
found all of their, before I get to that, I found it all very weird because I look at the Larry Correia's talk about me. And first off, he wrote a novel to start. I mean, the guy should have probably written a Monster Hunter International book instead of going at me with this. I mean, it's just wild. Yeah. When I pull this single post up, I mean, you'll see it. I'll just pull it up. Chat, like, this is like, I've never written this much about any man in my entire life. Like, and I write articles, for Bounding Into Comics, and now PJ
Holy
Media
cow.
for like, this was the first thing you wrote about me.
That's an impressive wall of text.
Yeah, I've been less vague before, had it out with him in public a few times, got sick of his tired act. That's me. Rarely talk about this S-head too much because he encourages more of his endless BS victim act, trying to milk other authors for clout, but I'm happy to go specific. All he does is jump on board wagons and look to angle to make it about himself. He sees an opportunity to start trouble for other authors and stir up S. He'll do it as long as he can think he can get more clout off of it. No matter what trouble that causes for the other author, he doesn't care because he's a grifter. That's odd. When Bain got attacked by a bunch of SJWs trying to get our website taken off the internet, he inserted himself into that, tried to make it about him. I don't remember this. This was when Bain was taking down the Bain's bar for January.
I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know what they're talking about, what he's talking about there.
I don't really either. I think that's what he's talking about. There's a reason nobody at the publishing house can stand him. They're turning against him. I met JDA. He said he tried to help me out. He did nothing for me, by the way. That's a friend apologized to me. He said he was a psycho. I gave him a promotional boost. He added me to a Facebook group of conservative authors is all he did. And then he took that as an invitation to become a quote writing parasite on my fan pages, and trying to milk authors, fans, monies for clout. So very odd. Like, I never really gravitated that hard to Larry because, like, I always wanted to just be a space opera, hard, like, science fiction guy. And I looked at Larry's like gun porn books and I'm like, well, that's not really my thing. Right. And so I never really hung around there so much. I really like what I gravitated to and what I was interested in emulating was much more like Lois McMaster Bujold and some of John C. Wright's stuff that you were publishing at the time. And Quantum Mortis too. Another one that was you co-wrote. Like, that stuff spoke to me, and Monster Hunter was not really my thing. And so I was not trying to write his coattail whatsoever. And I don't know where this came from. So this is
well, the thing is that he had, first of all, when people say things that don't make sense, they're usually confessing something about themselves.
Okay.
And so in his case, Larry's a self-made guy. He's a very successful guy. And I like his books, he's not a great writer, but he's an entertaining writer. And for one brief shining moment, with the Agent Franks thing, I think he actually even elevated above that, So kudos. But he does have people who are riding on his coattails.
Tons. And if you look at the ones who were attacking me this last week, they're all people trying to get a Monster Hunter co-written book.
Yeah.
If Brad Ferguson was one of them, he went hard at me. And I noticed he made several posts on Jason Cordova's Twitter stating he was jealous that Jason got the call up to co-write that book with Larry. It was signaling to Larry, please call me up to do this.
Well, not only that, but look at the way that that's an admission of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That like, and it's, the thing is, it's fine. I wish I had a stable of quality co-writers,
Right.
I've tried doing co-writing stuff in the past and it hasn't, the one Quantum Mortis novel was the only one that we published because it was the only one that met my standards. And so, and just to be clear, I'm not interested in Larry's co-writers. They would not meet my standard. But the thing is that he's used to, basically he was assuming, remember what I said about they assume motivations? Yeah. Because you were making memes and because you were, acting in some ways similar to the people who do want to ride his coattails, he assumed that's what you wanted to do.
Right.
And I don't, maybe you did, but again, I agree with what you said. Nothing that you have ever written makes me think that you want to write a Monster Hunter novel.
No, can I turn it into a romance novel, but with monsters that are being hunted? Larry would be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And that's what I'd want to do, right? So,
and the thing is that I don't think people who are not writers themselves understand necessarily that if you're a good enough writer, you know your limitations. I was offered the StarCraft novels by Blizzard back in the day, and I was initially excited about it, but then I wrote up a treatment. I sent it to them, and they loved it. They're like, "Oh, this is so fantastic!" Dun 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 dun. But they said, "But how about in the end? Then the Queen of Blades reveals herself, or whatever her name is, reveals herself to be the Queen of Blades, and then with an evil laugh, she disappears." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to pass on this one." Just because if that's what they wanted, they didn't need me. If you're going to write, hack Mercedes lackey wing commander type nonsense, you don't need me.
Right.
And so you have to know your limitations. You have to understand what you can do and what you can't do, And so that's why I think that the whole accusation of you attempting to ride coattails is nonsense, especially because, I try to get you to do things and you're like, "No, I'd rather write a book about, a girl in a balloon," or, whatever
true.
that is.
Yeah. I'm not very good at listening. I'm pretty independent, and that's kind of the hard part about it. And it works great in the independent space, but it does not work great as being a Bane team player or whatever. So, this is only one of them, but he goes off, he says, another thing he says is I'll turn on anybody for clout, which is an interesting thing because I really think the main contention most people have had with me, if you really peel back all the layers of the onion, is they've demanded that I've turned on you for clout repeatedly. Sarah Hoyt and Brad Torgerson I used to talk with them via Facebook Messenger back in 2017, 2016. And they always warned me. They said, "Don't get too close to Vox Day. Don't get too close to Vox Day." And I'd said, I like Vox, so that's, and I didn't care. And I didn't listen to them. And I feel like they wanted me to turn on you for clout.
They did. And it's really ironic. It's really ironic because Larry, to Larry's credit, he, despite the fact that I'm sure he had more than a few personal qualms about me, He absolutely 100% refused to publicly turn on me, attack me, say anything negative during the whole Sad Puppies, Rabid Puppies thing. He understood that that was not going to do him any good. It was just, the SJWs wanted him as a weapon against me. And, whether he did it for himself, whether he did it for me, I don't care. He did the right thing, and that's why it's a little bit, it's a bit confusing to me as to why he's so irritated with you, because
it's weird.
Yeah. And the thing is, my theory, and you can, you can look up the numbers on Amazon. Both Tor and Bane, like many other, mid-list publishers or whatever you want to call them, they're struggling. What a lot of people may not realize is that Kindle Unlimited has torn the guts out of the independent authors. All those small, so many of those small presses have failed. A lot of people that were making a decent amount of money 4 or 5 years ago selling books are not. I mean, we saw it coming. We knew it was coming. That's why we got into doing our own books, our own distribution system, our own shipping center. Actually, we have 3 shipping centers now, because we knew. I did the math. A Kindle Unlimited sale takes away 80% of an average ebook sale from the author.
Wow.
A full Kindle Unlimited read is worth about 1/5 of what you used to make from an average ebook. And I'm not talking about like an expensive one. I'm talking about like a cheap $3.95 one. And so now Amazon has just raised the minimum discount for print to 40%. It used to be 25%. So I don't know what. Now that shouldn't be affecting a company like Bane or a company like Tor, because they're already selling at like 55% discount to Amazon anyhow. But if you look, for example, I mean, you can check right now on Amazon. We just released Caravan of the Damned like 8 hours ago.
Okay.
And
you're up to let's see, you're in the 9548 right here. So you're in the top 10,000 of books within 8 hours.
I mean, it's so new that it hasn't even populated the cover yet.
Right.
Or the series data yet. It can take like 24 to whatever hours. And our sales on Amazon are significantly reduced. We actually sell, I would say, 55-45 direct from the Archaven store. Because if people buy direct from the Archaven store, they still get it shipped to their house, et cetera, et cetera. Shipping's still free. But they also get the ebook. It's included.
That's nice.
And so, but that's why people, are a lot of our hardcore supporters buy directly, just because they know that, creates more profit for the publisher, for the author, et cetera, et cetera. And so the fact that a brand new book that has, from a small publisher like us, isn't that far behind, the big book that is supposed to keep Bane afloat.
Wait, what's Larry Corey at? Hold on. Corey,
I don't know.
Monster Hunter Fever, I think. Here it is. Monster Hunter Memoirs Fever.
That's the Kindle. They got to go to the book.
The actual print edition, which Bane lives on. Yeah, they're at 5,000. So they're really, they're in the top in the top 5,000. That's not that big of a difference. I mean, you're talking probably actually less than a couple hundred books difference. Really.
Well, and if we were selling all through the distribution channel, ours, I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens.
Right, and you've got a lot of yours on Castalia House buying too, right? So you might, so in theory, and we don't have the numbers exactly, but you might, like, Chuck Dixon's book right now might be outselling Larry Correa's Monster Hunter book, which is Bane's biggest brand. That's crazy.
It's possible, but But that's that's not the point. The competition thing is not the point. I'm just mentioning it because it provides a point of reference. We know what the numbers are. We know what the rank stuff means. I mean, personally,
Right.
I find it very annoying. Why doesn't Amazon just publish the damn numbers? But
I know.
anyhow, but the thing is that these big, not big, but these companies, these established companies, Tor, Bain, Del Rey, et cetera, they didn't bring up the new generation of writers. They haven't been successful in doing that. Tor lost Brandon Sanderson. Tor lost all of its computer game tie-in stuff, which were very big sellers for it. And so they were left with John Scalzi trying to keep them afloat. Well, Scalzi.
If you don't know Vox, he's now writing about his cats in space. So if you are, John Scalzi has become a cat lady for real.
My goodness.
And I think he identifies as one too.
I wouldn't be surprised. But the thing is that Scalzi's not a bad writer for them to have in their stable, but he's not somebody who's going to sell enough books like a Jerry Pournelle or like a Brandon Sanderson or like a Robert Jordan. And Larry sells well, but he's aging. I mean, I would say that he's post peak in terms of sales. And that's not a criticism. That's just a series thing. Once you're on book 8 of a series, it's not going to sell as well. That's a fact. Right. And so, but they don't have Weber really anymore. They don't have Bujold anymore. They don't have all these great writers that made up the Bain stable are gone.
Slowed down significantly. Or died even. Yeah.
Right. And then the writers that they brought in to replace them, okay, they brought in Larry. That was a good choice, right? But Torgerson flopped. Hoyt never went anywhere. Who do they have?
I can't think of any. I've seen some that are names that I go, who? But I mean, there's nobody who's like a name that like has really percolated through the ranks there. And that's not to say that the books aren't good. I mean, I've read some good Bain books over the last 5-6 years that are by kind of no-name authors, but they're not.
I haven't read a single Bain book in years. I mean, I don't really have time, and also, but but the problem is, Bain should have signed Nick Cole and Jason Ansbach.
Oh, they got Richard Fox. That's a good move by them.
Richard Fox is good, but I don't know how much print he can move. And here's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, especially in the military fantasy space, a lot of authors were being propped up by Amazon.
That's true.
And we were talking earlier about this.
For the lore on this, there's lore on this that for people who don't know about military science fiction, it's your space marine science fiction. I've got a chat that might not know a lot of this stuff, so we do have to explain some of this. And there was a big Amazon deal. I have a button for this, and Vox has not seen the button, guys. He's going to be very excited. We're going back to the lore. The Amazon stuff like really hit peak in like 2014 to 2017. And these books with Space Marines and all that got really popular. And these authors just got huge. J.N. Chaney, B.V. Larson, Nick Cole, Richard Fox.
David Van Dyke.
David Van Dyke was another one. There were tons of them. And they would shoot to the top of charts and they'd show me their numbers too. And they were moving 80, 100,000 Kindle ebooks, and Amazon was pushing them. And you could figure out ways to ride the Amazon algorithm train, much like we do with YouTube here. Hit the like and subscribe button, by the way. And to get yourself some extra following and all this stuff. And Nick Cole actually had a guide on how to like really maximize your algorithm stuff that worked for like about a year before Amazon decided to pull the plug. But at that point, it was the Wild Wild West. And if you could get your keywords right and your description right, and you could make Amazon think that because Nick Cole's Galaxy's Edge is this, that your book is the next Galaxy's Edge, it would promote you and send emails to everybody who bought Galaxy's Edge, and you'd get tons of sales, and you could become an overnight success for no reason. Now, this changed over the last few years. I mean, you noticed this with Amazon changing their distribution model, and I'll let you take it from there.
Well, to be honest, I think that was all bullshit from the start. I think that, yes, I think that Amazon was pushing books in sectors that it could sell, and that there simply weren't any social justice approved writers in that space.
Okay.
And so they had to choose, do we want to just not push it? Or do we push people that maybe we're not too crazy about? And at the time, they made the decision to just push whoever was there, not worry about it. And again, just to make it clear that I know what I'm talking about here, that this isn't like any sort of sour grapes or anything. I was the #1 political philosophy bestseller in the world on Amazon for over 18 months straight.
Woof.
Okay. I sold tons of SJWs Always Lie.
Right.
And then so the other books, SJWs Always Double Down was in that category. Jordanette, or I can't remember, there's another book that published in that category. But so my book I was the beneficiary of the same thing. It just happened to be a different category. But if you looked it up, it was kind of funny because for 18 months, the rankings were Vox Day, Plato, Nietzsche, Aristotle, and Marx would be like number 5. And so, I mean, that sounds absurd in historical terms, obviously, but the point is, I know what I'm talking about. They were pushing me. And the same thing holds true for audiobooks. People say, oh, well, we're doing great because we sold audiobooks. The Throne of Bones, which is a 31-hour audiobook, obviously big fat audiobook, it sold a couple hundred every month when we were on Audible, which is a good, respectable number, right?
Right. I'd love that. Buy my audiobook, chat.
Guess how many I sold in my best month ever on Audible?
Let's say 500.
Yeah, try 25,000.
Holy smokes. Really?
I was astonished. Like, it happened 1 month, and then the next month, boom, gone. Back to, 200.
I had that same thing. You were making fun of my girl in a balloon book.
I'm not making fun of it. I'm not making fun of it. See, this is what I'm talking about.
I love my girl in a balloon book, Vox. Stop it.
But this is exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know the name of the book. I remember it had a nice cover. It's the book with a balloon and a girl. How is that offensive?
But yeah, that I had a month where that moved up like around 20,000 copies also. And it was like, whoa. And I was shocked. And you're like, and
the thing is, you always have this moment of, I've made it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a big hit. I'm going to be a bestseller from this point on. And then you're like, oh, Amazon was just pushing it. And so,
right. I didn't know why. I didn't know how to recapture it. I had no rhyme or reason for it, and was never able to get that back. But
and there was no the only rhyme or reason for it is somebody flicked a switch and said, hey, we need probably what happened is they said, we need a steampunk book to sell. And someone's like, oh, here's one. They probably didn't even look at the author name, just like flick the switch. Here, have some money, enjoy. And so that's why we pulled all. The funny thing is, as a result of that experience, we pulled all our books off of Audible because I was just like, this is ridiculous. I have no interest in being a part of this. And, and so anyhow, it's all of these, anytime you have these systems, I mean, all of these publishing systems have been fake and gay for a long, long time.
Right.
I mean, it was always funny how, with Tor, John Scalzi's books after Old Man's War, they would come out, they would pop up and appear on the New York Times bestsellers list for 1 week, never to be seen again. You know? It was completely obvious to anyone who had any idea what was going on that they were gaming it somehow. And the reason, we can tie this back to Sad Puppies now if you like.
Sure.
Gaming stuff is how the whole Hugo Awards thing started. Because Larry was asked his fans to help him out.
Right. I mean, the first post of this was like, it was titled something like "Help Larry Get an Award," or it really was.
Yeah,
that was it.
But what Larry was doing was no different than what Scalzi was doing, what Tor was doing. They did this all the time.
There's no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. That's great. I hope
No, so they're just like, okay, they're giving themselves awards. So Larry's like, well, I should get an award too, and fine. And then the reason I got involved was the second year he did it. We're talking about Larry Coronary, Chad, if you guys didn't know. So yeah, he did. I wrote a novelette called Opera Veda Eterna, and it's one of my better short stories, or novelettes technically, and it's the kind of thing that will have some appeal to anybody who's had a lifelong friend or is a religious person. And a lot of people really liked it. It somehow came to Larry's attention, and he included it on his little list of various stories that he was recommending. And that's when we discovered, in fact, Larry and I even had a bet about it. That's when we discovered who was more hated. because we were wondering who would get more no award votes. And I think we were both a little surprised. I think I mentioned at the time on my blog that I was expecting it to be more like 65-35 in my favor. He thought that it was going to be like a slight majority in his favor. And it turned out that I got literally 9 times more no award votes than he did. I mean, it became very clear that as much as the SJWs hated him, they hated me even more.
It's true. I joined, one of the first places I joined was the Codex Writers Forum. Have you heard of them? They're like a SIFWA light.
No idea.
Oh, Brad's big in there. My good friend, Baby Killer Brad. And he is in there. And so I joined because I qualified very easily. They're like lighter than SIFWA requirements. So it's silly. So I got in, I started posting, just talking about books and stuff. And somebody comes on one of my threads and immediately goes, "Do you know that this guy is friendly with Vox Day?" It's immediate. And within 24 hours I was banned.
Yeah, I'm so radioactive that just even suggested contact is enough to do it. But it's kind of, it is kind of amazing at times. But anyhow, and the funniest thing is that if these people, because how these people are all always kissing up to publishers and that kind of stuff.
100%. Yeah. If
these people had ever understood who some of my friends in the publishing industry are, they never would have done any of that sort of stuff. Now, I've never actually worked with most of these folks, in the last 15 years or so. I don't. Can you
email Tony Weiskopf and get her on the show here for me? You think?
I can give it a whirl if you like. I don't know how happy she is with me. But the last time I actually talked to her back, I don't know, maybe more than that, maybe 8 years ago. And I was just interested to see if it would make any sense for Castalia House to work with Baen. Maybe take our best 3-4 books and distribute through them. And after talking to her and learning about how their system worked, I quickly realized that no, that made no sense whatsoever. But the funny thing is that if you look at the books that Castalia Library is publishing, the books that people have rights to, like, the landmark Thucydides, it should be pretty obvious that I know some of the people at the Big Five.
Right.
Like, why do you think we're getting the rights, guys? you know, I mean, if you dig through the books and you look at who the editors were and stuff and that sort of thing, it's not that hard to figure out. But anyhow, to get back to Sad Puppies, I got accused of gaming the system to get that nomination. Now, I'm a good game designer. I haven't done a lot of games. I haven't done, other than the one game, I haven't done particularly successful games. But even legendary game designers who are friends of mine have told me that I'm a good game designer. They've also told me I'm a mediocre producer and I need to stop producing my own games. But but designer's good. So
are you on design? Like, are you more of the nuts and bolts mechanics? Is that what that means? Like the how the game works, like the systems, or what's that mean?
It can be. I mean, I do that, but I'm more what you call a lead designer. So you come up with the story, the reason the game exists, the core nature of the gameplay, et cetera, et cetera. Like right now, I'm working with this guy. We're doing both a strategy game, a board game, proper board game.
Cool.
Yeah, it's my fault. We didn't get Divine right out. And another guy came and offered the rights holder a deal. And even though we had another like 9 months to go on the deal, he just said, look, you've taken a long time and haven't gotten it out yet. So I just said, look, fine. I said, take them back. If you can get a deal done, do your deal and do it with them. But if it falls through, come back, please. And so he said, thank you. And then I just said, okay, I'm going to design my own version of that game, but then we're also doing this is going to sound a little strange, an ASCII based, massive multiplayer PvP battle game.
Wow.
And so no graphics, but it's going to be very AI heavy. It's going to be very cool. It's the exact opposite of Fortnite. It's cool. Literally the total opposite of Fortnite, because Fortnite is the game designers throwing up their hands and saying, okay, if you morons just want to run around like chickens with your head cut off, here. So anyhow, we're doing the exact opposite, which probably will not be as commercially successful, but should be a much better gaming experience. So we'll see. Anyhow, but the funny thing was, I'm getting accused of gaming my nomination that Larry had suggested.
Right.
I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. I didn't ask Larry to do it. I didn't even know that Larry had done it initially. So I took personal offense to being told, well, you gamed it. I'm like, look, I'm a game designer. If I'd gamed my own nomination, you would know it. And so they're like, of course, SJWs, they can never, ever perceive danger. They because they're always lying and because they're always bluffing, they assume that everything you say is false.
Right.
That everything you say is a bluff. So anyhow, I took one look at the rules. I realized immediately how Tor had been, getting its editors and writers nominated every year for, 20 years in a row. And so we just did the same thing. We didn't put much effort into it. But we had enough people, and I think the core crew was about 11 total. Because it was Larry. He was obviously the main one. Me, Tom Kratman,
I
John
like Tom.
C. Yeah, me too. Tom doesn't like me anymore, but that's okay.
Oh.
John C. Wright and his wife.
Beautiful people too. Love them.
And I think Brad was involved at that point. Yes, Brad was involved at that point. And let's see, Mike Z. Williamson.
Oh yeah, he's fun too.
And Ted Robb.
I don't know who that
And
is. Interesting.
there was like, I think it was Sarah Hoyt and I think someone named Amanda.
Oh,
and
Amanda's one of Sarah's kind of Mad Genius
Mad
acolytes.
Genius Club.
Yeah.
And Kate Polk.
Also one of
And
the Mad
so-
Genius people. Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's it. There might have been one or two more. I apologize to anyone who should be getting credit or blame or whatever, but and so, but obviously the two
question on Sarah. Was Sarah an American at the time? Like a real American?
Sarah was born American, more American than you in Portugal.
Okay. Thanks.
So,
Sorry, I just want to trigger everybody. So that's the goal here of the stream.
as long as we're at it. But yeah, no, it was always kind of funny to me with Sarah because she would simultaneously, claim to be more American than everybody because she'd lived in America and that sort of thing. But then she would also occasionally explain to people that I didn't really understand Europe because I was an American. I'm like, I've lived in Europe pretty much as long as you've lived in America. So how does that compute? Like how is it that
So
you are a true proper American, but I
Now,
could never be a
Sarah,
European.
to Sarah's credit, more than Larry, Sarah actually did try to help me a little bit. She got my books onto Instapundit and stuff like that, and I do appreciate that. I ran afoul of Sarah.
No, Sarah's a good.
This
Sarah's
is
a good
fun one.
Hang on a second.
got
Sarah's
mad at me.
just to be
Yeah.
clear, Sarah's a good person.
Yeah,
I have nothing whatsoever personal against her in any way, shape, or form. But like a lot of civic nationalists, like a lot of immigrants, she has identity complications, and people with identity complications don't take it kindly when you notice that. So
yeah. And since I was adjacent, she was one of the first ones to tell me not to get too close to you. And of course, when you were blogging about American identity and what it actually means, and of course that magic dirt does not make you say what your identity, what you claim it is often, to kind of succinctly put it. I had an issue, and she got mad at me. It was right before a convention, and so there's this convention called LibertyCon. That the Bane book people go to every year. And it's almost like Bane Con, but it's like half Bane books and half indie authors. And it's all, I'd say it's mostly center right people who go. It's a lot of fun. And so I was going for my first year, and I had just done this. I'd just come off of my Girl Balloon book. And this is making it's sold 20,000 copies. And I'm like, hey, I'm moving numbers. Maybe the Bane people might notice at this point. Maybe I could talk to them, see what's going on at this point and feel things out. Brian Niemeyer and I were making marketing campaign posts, and Brian Niemeyer was making posts of, you don't have to buy Scalzi, you can buy my Ethereal book. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite. And I really like Steve Miller and Sharon Lee at Bane. And I because of course they kind of do romance in space too, right? So I like them. And so I did. Hey, if you like this book by Sharon Lee, so you're definitely going to like my Stars Entwined book. And so I took a positive spin on this, and we were posting it. And we just post the images of the covers next to each other with a tweet. Well, Sarah went online and said, "Oh, this is stealing intellectual property, stealing the covers, and you're not allowed to do this." The guys that are doing bullshit, by the way, complete bullshit. But it was scary at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a new guy just trying to sell my books. And at the same time, Declan Finn, who's a kind of dude online who doesn't have too much of a following, because Sarah and all them had dropped the Sad Puppies at this point and said, we're not doing it anymore. He's like, well, fine, I'm going to make my award nominations list, and I'm going to run the Sad Puppies now. Well, Sarah decided to come down on like a hammer on Declan and said, no, you were not a part of this. This is not, even though she's not doing any of it and not a part of it anymore, got Declan to take it, and she canceled Declan. And I'm like, wow, if you're not using it and you're not doing it, why do you care if somebody's doing it? This doesn't make sense. And I thought, you know what? I want to make my brand known that I'm really good at marketing for Bane at the con here. So what I'm going to do is do something a little different. Since Declan can't have his Sad Puppies, I'm going to do something different. And I'm going to make a group, and I'm going to call it the Happy Frogs. and because Pepe was a big meme at the time. And
actually I do vaguely remember.
You remember
something
this?
about Happy Frogs? Yeah, I didn't.
So
I don't think I knew what it was.
Right, you probably didn't. And I made T-shirts and a bunch, and it sold over like 100 T-shirts, like instantly. And I'm like, wow, this is a crazy thing. I can't believe I just sold 100 T-shirts over some stupid meme. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do the Hugo Awards because F the Hugo Awards at this point. I'm just going to make my own awards, and I'm going to make the Happy Frogs Awards. And I just gave my friends awards that year for everything. I think I gave you an award, but
really?
you might have not even noticed. Yeah, I don't know.
If I could make myself convincingly cry and be really excited, I would. But of course,
Megan Fox from PJ Media. So I gave her an award for excellence in geek journalism.
Okay.
She was covering diversity in comics and the stuff at the time. And
Megan Fox. What was my award?
I think I gave you the Lifetime Achievement Award. As I recall. So yeah.
Well, that's like practically like SFWA Grandmaster.
Right, exactly.
Put that on my Wikipedia page.
But Megan used it. So whenever she writes her little bios, she says award-winning journalist because I gave her an award, and she is. It's legitimate.
In fairness, I did win an award in a similar fashion. Yeah, I mean, years and years before. But there was a blogger, an excellent blogger, much lamented, total badass, who called himself Bane after the Chuck Dixon character, ironically.
Bane. Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, I even have a poem. After he died, I was a bit sad about it, so I wrote a poem about it called "Bane Walks On," which is actually going to be in my new collection of short stories that's coming out soon. But Bane gave out these awards, and I'm still to this day very proud of it. In fact, you might have seen where it says the award-winning cruelty artist, because he gave me an award for best unprovoked shot at a little crippled boy.
Yes, proud of that one. I'm sure you are. Yes.
Oh, of course. I mean, he had a son who was disabled pretty moderately severely, and Bane was he liked to talk smack. He liked to talk a lot of smack. Yeah. And he would take, he had no filter. So he would take shots at you, your wife, your proclivities, et cetera, et cetera. So, my philosophy is always just, you pick the rules, I'll play the game. And so, I don't even remember what it was, but I basically took a shot at methodically at every single member of his family.
Oh, geez.
No, he and his wife thought it was hilarious, because
that's great.
That's the kind of people they were. But he was always kind of impressed by that, because he was kind of like, wow, even I wouldn't go that low. I was just like,
I thought I would either.
But that was the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. If it's the game, it's the game. You play the game,
He'll systematically destroy you, chat. Just accept it. So
yeah. So anyhow, he gave me this award called best, and so I have very proudly worn the label award-winning cruelty artist ever since.
Beautiful.
So
on the Happy Frog. So the T-shirts are coming out. Okay.
Okay.
And so I'm rolling to this convention, and so I tell everybody at the convention, and they're in a Facebook group too. I'm like, you know what? We're all gonna have a day. We're gonna make ourselves happy frogs, and my slogan was the sad puppies are sad and they're crying. They took their ball and go home. That's not us. We're happy frogs. Happy frogs are winners. And because everybody who's a happy frog, because I just listed my award winners, they just won awards. That was it. Because I gave it to them.
Right.
And so that happened. So I got all these people bought my T-shirts, and then I made hats that said "Make Science Fiction Fun Again" in the MAGA hat style.
Right.
And I sold a zillion of those too. And I told everybody we're gonna have a day at this convention to make a big scene, because in my intention in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna show Bane like I'm a marketing genius, and they're gonna see that this so about half the convention attendees were in my t-shirts and hats on that Friday. And everybody's walking around these Happy Frog shirts with this Make Science Fiction Fun Again hat. They're all wearing my merch around the Bane convention, even to the Bane Roadshow and all that. And I'm just sitting here laughing. I'm going, I can't believe I got this many people to do this. This is crazy. And Bane was not impressed. It's their convention and I made a mockery of it. It's a very serious, it's like, and so I actually, I was hoping to get a meeting with Tony and try to talk with her and just be like, hey, what's the process for submitting and all this? I never submitted anything to them. That's the word Larry lied again. Never happened. So I was selling my books because I set up a table to sell books because, I like to sell, believe it or not. And I was there and somebody comes up to me and goes, are you John Delarose? And I'm like, yes. And he says, hello, I'm blah, blah, blah from Bane Books. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm sitting here excited. I'm like, oh, they must've seen my shirts. Like, we've heard that you've been making memes of Sharon Lee's books and comparing them to your books. Tony Weiskopf would ask you right now to cease and desist, or we will be taking legal action.
Jeez. That's just insane.
I'm like, and I'm just this kid who's just like, I just came out with I loved you guys for real. And that was it. And at this point I realized like, oh my God, like Sarah Hoyt going off on Facebook on this meme on it just really, she went and said stuff about me in a negative way. And it's honestly, at the end of the day, it was because I was associated with you. And all these marketing efforts, and even though I succeeded in everything I was doing, they don't care about that. It is just tribal.
Well,
and political.
They do care. They find it They do care. They find it threatening. And
Fair.
so,
yeah,
and that's just that's why they'll never succeed for any significant length of time. That's why whatever success they have is going to be ephemeral, because they don't have the courage to understand. You can't do it all yourself and you can't do it all your own way,
right.
And what worked in the 1980s when you had a strong hand like Jim Bain, who was bringing in top talent and developing new talent and all that sort of thing. To be honest, I think that Bain has run into the same problem and Tor even more so. Actually, no, I think Tor's problem is different. But Bain's problem is that it's the usual problem you have when you've got a successful entrepreneur or a successful founder, and he's got this lieutenant whose specialty is operations. And, being very good at operations is important. You always want to have a good ops person. But the good ops person never makes a good CEO.
That makes sense. Right.
And I think, and Tony's a good editor. She's a good ops person, but I don't think that she has the vision or the skill set to have successfully replaced Jim Bain. And
a lot of these authors from that period too don't understand this. I mean, even it was either Sarah or Brad who told me. I do remember them at one point saying, "Why don't you focus on the books, John?" And I'm sitting here like, wait a minute. I'm writing books at a speed, I'm not at Chuck Dixon speed. Nobody is. Chuck Dixon's a legend, no. But I am pretty fast. And I'm writing books at a speed 5 times faster than you. So I'm guarantee I'm focused on the books way more than they are. Right. But at the same time, they mean just like, why am I talking about things? And I'm like, I learned from a marketing course because I come from a business background. I got my, I'm from the Haas School of Business at Berkeley. And so everything I do is business. I don't. Oh,
you're Berkeley. I didn't realize that. Yeah. My cousin's a Berkeley man.
And so one of the early marketing classes I took was like a lot of people when they're doing their marketing, they and this is great for anybody in the chat who wants to be an author or comic creator or whatever. They want to talk about themselves. And Vox actually, you actually reiterated this to me several times over the years. And I appreciate that because I forget sometimes. But here's the deal. Nobody wants to hear about me and my Airship Girl balloon book. Like they don't, if I sat here ranting about this, all you would tune out right now. You don't care. You want to talk about something that's informative and interesting to you. And what's informative and interesting to me is not necessarily informative and interesting to you. And I have to keep that in mind. Because that's
Right.
the first thing that you learn. You don't just sit there and post about your book, because every amateur author does this and nobody reads their posts at the end of the day. I post about, I've got an industry rumor about Marvel, and that's what my YouTube video of the day was. That's what you're interested in, chat. And so I know this, and that's what I'm going to spend most of my time on. And Vox, you told me this early on too. He said, when you do your posts, Twitter or whatever, Social Galactic, you told me, make sure only 1 in 10 of your maximum, maybe even 1 in 20 of your posts are promotional posts, and the rest have to be interesting to the readers out there. And that stuck with me. And a lot of these people don't realize this. Yeah,
I think I went too far in the opposite direction. I finally, we finally got our first newsletter out since July. And we're more than a month overdue in announcing what the September-October library book is, which, by the way, is, to no one's surprise, War and Peace Volume 2. But
makes sense.
It was one of those things like, and this is where, thinking about yourself from your own perspective is always a mistake. Because I was like, I don't really, it's obvious what the next book is going to be. So I don't really need to prioritize spelling it out to everybody. And then I don't think about it for 2 months, and then all of a sudden people are going, well, what the hell? What's the book? And so, but it is true. If you want people to pay attention to you, and Larry's a great example of this too. What does Larry spend most of his time talking about?
Politics. Guns too. Yeah.
Politics, guns, gun politics,
Guns are politics, aren't they? Yeah,
pretty much. But the point is that he's interesting himself. He is talking about other things besides, hey, I wrote a book. Do you want to read it? Here's the 37th excerpt from my book.
You look very and the other thing is you look very unconfident when you do that. Like you're saying, hey guys, please pay attention to my book.
But even that doesn't. But that doesn't matter. The point is you're boring.
Right.
Right. Confident. You could be the most confident person in the world, and it's not going to make your constantly talking about it any more interesting. And that's why I think it's so important to, show your other interest, discuss your other interests. And the thing is that people will pick it up. Like I've had people tell me that that they love discovering things from my political and philosophical writings or religious writings in my fiction, because it's not the focus of my fiction, but of course it's coming from the same source. So it's going to color it here and there. And, like I just finished a short story. It's called Shinjuku Satan. And I originally wrote it for Bruce Bethke has a cyberpunk issue coming out. But Bruce Bethke is the guy who literally coined the term cyberpunk. And so he's got a cyberpunk issue of Stupefying Stories. And I think he was thinking that he might run a little short. So I said, well, do you want me to write a story? He said, sure. And then before I finished it, he's like, oh, I've gotten stories. We're good. I suspect he would never, he's too gracious and polite to ever say it, but I have a feeling he's like, please don't send me the story, because if I run your story, like 10 of these authors will quit. But it's based on, in part, on my experiences in Roppongi in 1988 when I was young. And if you're a good writer, if you're a competent writer, then you understand the difference between being inspired by something and using your knowledge from something and either preaching about it, becoming didactic, or whatever. Because whether you're doing a blog post, a YouTube channel, writing a book, whatever, it has to be about something other than me.
Right.
Because while for a lot of people, their own selves are their favorite subject, in virtually no cases is that anybody else's favorite subject. And so, now actually this is where I think Larry's a really interesting writer, is that, the character of Owen, the main character in the original Monster Hunter series, it's obviously a Gary Stu. I mean,
Right.
it's obviously Owen himself. But if you happen to be a giant gun nut accountant, that works.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's fantastic and it works great. And so, but, you know, for most of us who are not, you know, heroic substance, that sort of approach is not going to work very well. You know, I mean, a book about a guy who pretty much sits around and reads and fondles his leather books, which is pretty much all I do, is not going to make for a very exciting protagonist. You know.
I relate to this personally. So
John's sitting there going, "Precious, my precious." Well, you know, the funny thing is, now I'm thinking, just as a challenge, it might be funny to write a short story, because you could actually portray like a powerful sorcerer that way. Like,
that's true.
See, now I'm thinking, okay, that would be a terrible, terrible idea for a story. But then I'm thinking, well, but how could you take that approach and actually make it an interesting story? Could you do it? I'm not saying you can, but it's an interesting challenge. So for any would-be writers out there, there's your task.
There's the writing prompt of the day.
Yeah. Well, isn't like November supposed to be some sort of writing month thing?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. The National Novel Writing Month, but
website,
they became like they started like giving all their money to Black Lives Matter or something like that a couple years ago. Of course, like
how did they have any money in the first place?
They raise money off their website. Like, it's a little organization. It's a little grift. You know, it's crazy.
I always thought it was just like hey everybody, let's write. You know.
No, they have a whole thing, and then they guilt you.
So like, what if you don't write your daily amount, then you can like pay them, and then they'll give you a token to like you know, give you a
That's
boost.
A brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea. You make some money that way.
It's like Duolingo meets writing.
Yes.
I mean, it was funny. I was working on for some retarded reason, I decided to start brushing up on my Japanese again. So I'm doing, you know, Duolingo
for the short story, right? Because that's obviously.
I was doing it before the short story.
Okay.
I think there is a relation, but the causal order is reversed. You know what I mean?
Okay, gotcha.
But also, I watched a series called Tokyo Vice, and it's set like the guy arrives in Japan the year after that I was there. And so it was really kind of fascinating because, you know, I mean, it was familiar in a way that, you know, you wouldn't have expected it to be. So that was kind of interesting. But anyhow, you know, we learned early on, if 6 Japanese guys get out of a car and they're all wearing suits, and the car is an expensive Mercedes with like 7 antennas sticking out of it, be on your best behavior. But anyhow, yeah. So like, you know, I was all proud of myself because I was telling Space Bunny, yeah, I've got a streak of 21 days, you know, and you know, she's the kind of person who like probably has a streak of like 3,000 days or something, you know, and never actually missed it. She's like,
so what languages do you and Space Bunny speak?
English.
Okay.
You know, pretty competent with that. Italian.
Okay.
German, French, and I speak, you know, a reasonable amount of Japanese.
Interesting.
So,
I'm finally learning Spanish. Believe it or not, the leading Hispanic here. I've never
leading
Spanish
Hispanic voice. Never.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My streak's 178 days, so I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's like 157 more than my best.
Okay.
But what Space Bunny said was, she's like, "Oh, that's good, honey. How many streak freezes did you use?" I'm like, 6.
Oh, in 20-something days? That's hilarious.
I'm not real consistent with it. I mean, I'm more the binge type. Like,
Yeah.
I won't do it for 2 days, and then I'll do like 40 lessons. So I'm always like winning my leaderboard, or I win my league,
Yeah.
and then I get like bounced 4 leagues because I'm not on there
Right.
for a while, and then I like win 2 leagues. I'm just bouncing up and down.
Nice.
I don't think I'm.
What bothers me about Duolingo though is they push the homosexual agenda so heavily.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, it's so annoying. It's like I'm in Spanish and it's like Luis's novio está, and it's like Luis does not have a novio. Stop it. He has a novia.
Yeah, or you'll have a obviously very masculine voice going, "Konnichiwa, Naomi-san." No, "Konnichiwa, Naomi desu." You're like, okay, you're not a Naomi. There's
Right.
no way. but I mean, what do you do? I mean, we don't. But this is exactly why we need the alternative in the culture wars. I mean, this is why
Right.
the culture wars need to be fought. I mean, I would use a non-SJW version of Duolingo in a heartbeat,
Yes.
but it doesn't exist. And unfortunately, as we've seen with so many things, conservatives would rather cry about Wikipedia than actually use Infogalactic.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
They'd rather watch some horrible thing, some horrible abomination that Amazon has created to desecrate Tolkien, than read good fantasy that people actually have compared to Tolkien.
Right.
And it's frustrating, but it's understandable. And we can cry about it if we want, we can complain about it if we want, but really the only thing that we can do is keep getting better.
I really was crying about it for a while, and I sat here because I'm late to the YouTube game, and part of what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a writer, and so I was writing for the Federalist, as you remember, and and I actually wrote for Milo's Dangerous for a bit too when that was going, and then I was like, you know what, and I'm writing for my blog, and I'm like, you know what, I don't want to do I'm not the YouTuber guy who's watching the Star Wars episode and then gonna review it and complain about it. Now I totally am, and I didn't do it for the longest time, and I fought it, and it was stupid because nobody cares who wrote the article at the Federalist. But if the quartering, the YouTuber reads my article at the Federalist, the quartering gets a ton of subs and a ton of attention out of it without even he just read my article. And he's read my article a bunch of times, and he's got 1 million+ subs. So he's got a giant platform just for being on video. So I fought that for the longest time. It was stupid to fight it because if the culture is a direction, we have to be in those spaces. And this has always been my thing. I'm going to be in this space. I'm going to plant my feet, and I'm going to say, ban me. And I'm going to sit here right in this space until they do ban me.
And then you can retreat, and then you can retreat to unauthorized. Then you can retreat to unauthorized, and people can watch you there.
Exactly.
But the key thing, but the key thing, and this is something that I'll tell all of your YouTube watchers is, this is why you guys need to be supporting things like unauthorized.
Correct.
Because otherwise, you're going to find yourselves herded like cattle into watching only what Amazon, reading only what Amazon wants you to read, watching only what Netflix and YouTube want you to watch.
And even this, by the way, this stream right here, every stream this week and the last 3 weeks I've done has gotten 150 to 300 live viewers, because I'm guaranteed it's because I put your name in the title that YouTube suppressed it. So you have been the people who are here obviously didn't get fooled by this, but people did not get notifications. This was not seen, and it's literally because your name's on here. It is that sinister. Yeah,
I have no doubt. But that's their rules. Remember, I was telling you that I just play by the games I play the game by the rules I give it. Those are the rules. So play the game. I had 36,000 subscribers on YouTube when they shut off my access to my channel. By the way, I'm also one of the very few people personally banned from setting foot at the Mountain View campus.
Wow.
Despite the fact that I left the USA before Google was founded as a company. So I don't know why they think I'm particularly like prone to like, flying in and wading in like Duke Nukem or something. But you just have to accept the situation and then figure out, what do you do next? And sometimes what you can do is far in excess of what you think you can do. Owen is in a much better place now than he was even when he was repped by CAA, getting gigs like the Screenwriters Guild Award, hosting that kind of thing. Now he's practically the king of his local community, doing comedy specials with 1,500 people. That's bigger than he would get in an LA club.
Absolutely.
And so I think that we are the true cyberpunks, believe it or not, because we're the whole ethos of punk was do it yourself. And we are the ones who have to do it ourselves. That's why we chose the title Unauthorized quite proudly. We don't want to be authorized. We are proud that we are unauthorized, because to be authorized means to be submissive. It means to be permitted, and it means that you are acceptable to people who are beyond the pale. And and the movement is growing. It continues to grow. I mean, for crying out loud, back in 2008, Charles Stross told me I needed to mind my P's and Q's, or I was never going to get published by Tor. Now we own our own, not just publishing house, our own bindery. I mean, we can basically practically produce books from the trees at this point. And so, I mean, at one point, when the price of paper was going up, we were joking about how we're going to have to buy our own forests now. and then we were arguing about who was going to have to cut down the trees. Because I'm like, I'm not doing it. But whatever needs to be done, whatever has to be done, that's what you do. And, persistence and vision, with a little bit of talent, can go much, much further than anybody believes. If you'd asked me, if you'd told me 5 years ago that I would be publishing comics with the greatest comics book writer in comics book history, I would have laughed at you.
I can take credit for this, right? I hear I take credit for everything, but I think I literally can take credit because I remember when Alt Hero was happening, I was like, I know Chuck Dixon a little bit. Can I introduce you to this guy? And I'm pretty sure I got that ball rolling. So this is my fault.
I think you might have, because from my perspective, what happened was that Chuck had sponsored. He supported Alt Hero. He backed it.
Yes, correct.
And like all these people went nuts. They're like, Chuck Dixon is backing this. Oh my gosh! And of course, I'm like, who the hell's Chuck Dixon? I'm a literary snob.
Right.
I mean, I read Dante in the original, Goethe in the original. I love Murakami and Eiko. I mean, comics were not my thing. And so then people are all excited about it, and I'm like, okay. So I'd call him up, just say thank you, and he's a great guy. I mean, probably most of your viewers watch him, but I mean, Chuck in person is even funnier than, I mean, he's actually really funny. My wife.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
My wife always knows if I'm talking to the legend or to Owen, because like she's like, those are the people that, like, I hear you laughing and I know it's one of them, And so, in fact, one of our favorite things to do when we're talking, and I'm not spilling any beans about this, but we like to come up with ideas that would absolutely be unpublishable. Like basically Bad Idea Genes, but with comics, And so anyhow, so I call him up, I say thank you, and we're just talking, and he's like, oh yeah, I really like what you guys are trying to do, and I think that's great. And I was like, well, do you want to write one? He's like, write one what? I said, well, we've already beaten all of our goals. I mean, we were looking to raise 25,000. We raised 27,000 before I woke up the next morning. So, and I had no idea how much it costs to make these and stuff. And so we overcommitted big time on that one.
Yes,
but,
indeed. I remember how that.
but we're getting there. So
Yeah.
anyhow, Chuck says, yeah, I'll write 12 issues of something new, and I said, okay, cool. And so we just put it up there on the campaign. And so if you brought that about, I'm deeply appreciative, because working with him is rewarding in a way that it's really a true privilege to have the opportunity to write with someone who's that talented and that knowledgeable, even though he does have a little bit of a cruel streak. And he does like to remind me how far behind I am on our mutual stuff. So
here it is. I've got my email. Hey Vox, here's Chuck's email. I give you his email. He says he'd be happy to chat with you. Cheers. And then
there you go.
I set you guys up. Yeah, there it is. It's October 6th, 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was big. That was really big. And now, now he's doing the Conan books with us. He's my co-writer on Midnight's War, which is our vampire comic that's very popular. And we've got some new projects that are coming out. He did Chuck Dixon's Avalon. And I mean, just a unbelievably prolific talent.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And the thing is, he's always got a little twist, a little emotional twist that, you don't see coming. And, because I was reading his stuff at first with Avalon, I was kind of like, okay, it's okay. And then all of a sudden, bam, I was like, oh, this is why they call him the legend. So anyway, do we have any questions or anything?
Cool. I guess we got super chats, and if you guys do have questions, we can go to that. As far as the Sad Puppies go, Vox got nominated, and then they kind of backed away. Then Brad Torgerson took it over, and then Brad nominated a bunch of SJWs along with the other slate. The SJWs then turned on Brad and all said we declined our nominations. So Vox decided to make his own slate. And Vox's slate was the greatest slate in history and destroyed Worldcon and the Hugos forever. The end.
Yeah. My wife likes to say that people are always proud of the wrong things. And I think that one of my greatest accomplishments, and I definitely want it mentioned in my eulogy, is that I secured a nomination for Space Raptor Butt Invasion.
Amazing. And they try to act like these days, they try to act like it was actually them winning, by the way.
They did at the time. They're like,
that? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, what they didn't understand was that, they thought that we were like the Sad Puppies. Like they thought that we secretly wanted to get validation from them, that we secretly wanted to win the award, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I knew that, remember, I'm a game designer. I understood how the system worked. I understood there was no possible way. And I had to tell, back when we, when all the nominations came through on Sad Puppies 3, and like the people that I was telling you about, the 10 or 11 who were involved, they were elated. I mean, they were just like, this is changing everything, et cetera, et cetera. And they were so optimistic. And I'm sitting there going, what is wrong? We're on this like joint conference call. And oh my gosh, I was so irritated with some of them, because like, the important thing is that we win with grace and style. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We didn't win anything.
Right.
The only reason it looks like we achieved anything is because I know how the rules work, and we've got
Yes.
supporters. So anyhow, and they actually believed that there was a chance that they might win.
Yeah.
And I told them,
and they wanted that. They really wanted those awards. I mean, they really did. It's yeah.
Excuse me.
Bless.
But I told them at the time.
Oh boy. Hit
Thought
the
I'd
like and
spare you
subscribe
all.
button, chat.
I thought I'd spare you all that one. Anyhow, I told them that morning when the announcements came in, I said, none of us are going to win anything. I said, we're probably all going to get no awarded. You know?
Yes.
There's no way that doesn't happen. and they're like, you know, some of them were actually going to the awards in the hopes that, like, you know, they went to the ceremony and stuff. Like Tony Weisskopf
That was
did.
nuts. I remember that they went to that, and it was, and then David Gerald went disgusting with it too, of course.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing was just absurd because there was no chance that there's no possibility of winning because of the way that the nominations get voted on, and they've got this weird Australian system, so that even if you're the second most popular one, you can still finish last. And so they didn't listen about that. And I think that they were legitimately shocked when they got rejected by the SJWs. And
wow.
And maybe that's where some of the hurt came in, was because, you know, I think that some of them probably believed that they might have been accepted in some way if it hadn't been for me putting them in the line of fire.
I see a lot of this with kind of our conservative crowds, that it's at the end of the day, they're like, you know what, if we just do well enough and we show that this is the way, and this is the way to sell books and all that, eventually they're going to come around and see the reason that, like, this is what sells, and we know what we're doing, and they're going to respect us professionally, at least. They have that mentality.
Well, and it's crazy that they still do, because if you look at the comics industry and you look at how they're literally mutilating themselves. I mean, just today, Bounding Into Comics reported that this very influential comic shop that created, you know, the free comic day thing, which has been a pretty big thing in the industry for like 35 years, that comic shop is closing down.
Yeah, I actually went to the shop yesterday and confirmed it after the rumor showed up. They are going to, Flying Colors is going to close down. And I've actually been frequenting that comic shop for 20 plus years. So
wow. Okay.
Horrible.
So you know way more about than I do. So why am I even talking about it? But,
the first question we have, a very important question, the one that everybody is starved to know because it's brilliant, from Friendly Comic Fan. Fake there for 199 super chat. Does Vox Day like black people?
I like some. I dislike others.
I love the blacks.
I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily know this, but I was a NCAA Division I 100-meter sprinter. So I can assure you that I have taken more naked showers with black men than than any of you.
That's being clipped. Oh, you just screwed yourself there, Vox. I'm sorry.
What?
It's over.
I don't. It's true. You know,
so you don't think this is what Tucker says?
The brown people are leaving. We're so excited. Go, brown people, go. Don't come home. If you're not my housekeeper, get off the island. Get the hell out of here, brown people. Those people? They're not dating my daughter, I can tell you that.
I disavow. So, yes.
The thing is, it's kind of funny too, because Americans don't really know what black people are, and they don't know the variety of them. Like back when I was in college, one of my teammates used to just get so pissed at people, and it was usually at the really squishy liberal types, because they kept calling him an African American. He's like, I'm from Kenya. I'm Kenyan. I'm not an American at all. You know, I'm getting my degree and I'm moving back to my country of Kenya, you know? And so over here, they don't really try to do that. Like, they don't try to do oh, you're African, British, or you're African Italian or whatever. Yeah, 'cause, like, I have two teammates from Senegal and one from Nigeria.
This is soccer for the Americans out there. So,
oh, did I say football?
we don't watch that here in America.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yeah. Anyhow, I've played soccer for decades now. I'm very ancient for the sport. But I happen to. It's kind of funny because for some reason I get along well with the Albanians. I'm actually a bit of an honorary Albanian because I played with an Albanian team one game when they didn't have enough players, so they called me up and asked me if I'd come and play. People don't understand the difference between macro and micro. Very few people understand that. You're perfectly capable of saying, you know what, I love my teammate, I like my friend, but I don't think it's a great idea to lower the average IQ of the society by 10 points by bringing in 6 million people from Botswana.
Right.
Because unless you've been to Botswana and you like how Botswana operates, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it's maybe easier to see if you've lived as a expatriate or if you've lived as an immigrant, because you see how people change where they visit, not where they visit, but where they immigrate to. And you really see that if it comes in numbers, then it fundamentally destroys what was there before and replaces it with something that is different. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. Either way, it's not what it was before.
Right. That's a great point. And this is a type of discussion that's very difficult because it just does seem like, I think this gets back to the midwit thing at the beginning. The midwit just gets uncomfortable with this kind of discussion. And Owen made a video about this yesterday. He's talking about conservatives and how conservatives don't stand for anything. And they're the woke. Oh, it's terrible. I hate the woke entertainment and all this. And he's like, okay, cool. So let's ban pornography because all of these are sexual fetishes. Oh no, don't do that. Oh no,
right. Right. But the reality is there are always blasphemy laws.
Right.
It's just, are you blaspheming against Jesus Christ, or are you blaspheming against the transvestites?
Right.
And so I personally think that, civilization reached its height under Western Christian civilization. And
Agreed.
if we want to
specifically the Spanish Empire, right? Yeah.
I'm the Spanish Empire had its points, but I would say it was a little after that generally. But it's, if we want to have the fruits of those things, look at my bookshelves. If we want to have the fruits of those civilizations, then we have to protect the elements of those civilizations and societies, or we're going to lose them. And people don't realize that, actually people are now starting to realize this out where you live, is that we're not just talking about, the shiny science fiction stuff. We're talking about indoor plumbing.
Right. Oh, it's nutty out here. Yeah.
I think people thought I was exaggerating for rhetorical effect when I said that, with the threat to Western civilization, indoor plumbing is at stake. And people are like, oh yeah, that's crazy. And now nobody's saying it's crazy anymore,
Well, it's the low flow toilets are great for the environment, but they don't flush the poop. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, which kind of defeats the purpose.
Right.
Like, what's the point of having plumbing that doesn't work?
Right.
And so
a nicer question from Maggle Rack. I can't.
Maggle Ramexis.
Thank you.
Ramaxis.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is the pulp line for Castalia still happening?
Well, look at what we just published today.
This is it. It's Conan.
I mean,
and you got Razor Fist too, who's
we
doing
got
pulp
we got
also.
Razor Fist.
So.
We've got and John, you should probably make your new announcement about.
Oh, you think, or is this going to be and this is a pulp novel, really, if you look at it. I mean, superheroes is as pulp as it gets, kind of. If you think about it, why wouldn't it be?
Because it's
superhero. Why would you define it? Superhero is pulp, but comics like that's as pulp as it gets. The Shadow was a pulp thing.
Okay,
that's it. Think about it.
Well,
who's the first superhero? Is Zorro, right? And right, think about it.
Maybe you and your Spanish Empire. Have you ever read Captain Alatriste?
No.
You must. You absolutely must.
Captain Alatriste.
You will absolutely. There's like 8 books. He's a retired captain of infantry.
There's a movie.
Read the books.
Okay, I'll read the books.
The author is wonderful. His Alatriste books are not my favorite, but I think that they are going to be. It's the guy who wrote the Club du Mas, Spanish author, spacing on his name at the moment. But anyhow, he's a first-rate mystery and action author, and I highly recommend. Yep, that's it. Yeah, Arturo Perez Reverte.
Cool.
Fabulous books, but Captain Alatriste in particular is going to be your cup of tea.
Oh, I'm excited. I'll grab it right now. I'm actually going to El Salvador next week. I need books to read, so this will be perfect. So
perfect.
Cool. And Chuck Dixon. I'm 100% getting Chuck Dixon's new Conan. The first one was so good, guys. If you have not read it,
second one's even better. Cool. Second one's even better, no question.
Good stuff. We have Einbrecht, F. Einbrecht, for $2, which is Canadian, so it's fake money because it's Canadian.
It's worth at least a quarter.
Yeah, that's right. Big Bear and Vox, you naughty boy, John, and Ethan Van Sciver. Don't forget that. I've had the trifecta of just like
it's like the evil trinity.
I know. It's been a week. Thank you for the super chat. Fernando Covet $4.99. Hey Vox, we're so alike that I don't care one bit that you haven't replied to the only one email that I ever sent you. Please let's not hang and Sigma on. This is a reference. So
I love Fernando. He's my people.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's exactly what I want to hear from people. Doing great stuff. Support your stuff. I don't ever want to talk to you again.
You're like, please, thank you very much. Yes. All hail the Dark Lord. All hail JDA Cartel. Thank you, Cynic Chief. We really appreciate you being there, and you've been a supporter of ours for years, and we recognize that. Thank you. So is Drake Tungsten.
Isn't that a little racist?
What, the cartel?
I'm just saying.
I am running a cartel. Larry says I'm the biggest grifter. If you can't grift more than running a cartel, so that's what I'm doing now. And
okay,
I'd like a grift that also is my own personal army. And the cartel's the way to do it at this point. I'm selling the drug of the gospel of Jesus Christ, my friends. All right. Drake, thank you for the $2 super chat. Hail Speaker of the House, JDA. I don't know about that. Do you think Trump says he's going to Washington and he's open to being nominated to this? Do you think there's a possibility of any of this?
If Trump becomes the Speaker of the House, then everything that Q said was correct.
Interesting.
I mean, I can't imagine it happening under any other circumstance, because unless this whole thing is a show that's going on that's being run by the white hats or whatever, which is hard to believe, there's no way that the establishment Republicans, who are the overwhelming majority in the House and Senate, are going to permit Trump to become Speaker of the House. I mean, the whole establishment Republican Party is kind of trying to do to Trump what Bain and the moderate right wants to do to everybody to their right. I mean, it's the same basic relationship. So I can't picture it. I can imagine it, but I don't think it's a high level of probability.
We can meme it to reality, though, Chad. Vox is a little more black-pilled than I am. I'm a future is wide open. We can meme anything into reality.
I'm not black-pilled. I'm not black-pilled at all. People say that I'm black-pilled and stuff. I'm not black-pilled. operate well in chaos.
That's fair.
I mean, people are like, well, you say these things and, you see this collapse and you see all this. And I'm like, yeah. And that's opportunity,
Beautiful. All right. My last question is, are panda bears real?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's controversy happening between Vox and Owen, everybody.
Owen
Big
doesn't know
controversy.
what the hell he's talking about. I mean, for crying out loud. People are always saying, well, Owen says this about, theology. I'm like, Owen wouldn't know who Tertullian was if Tertullian rose up from his grave and bit Owen in the ass. I mean, gee, when I have theological questions, I always look for a comedian to, I was thinking about, the whole thing about transubstantiation. So I called David Chappelle, and the same thing holds for biology. Owen wouldn't know the difference between a panda bear, a polar bear, a grizzly bear, and a sun bear. I mean, he practically is a bear himself.
One might say a big bear. Yeah.
A big bear. Exactly.
Yeah.
But so the idea that I mean, I even sent him proof that panda bears exist because Theodore Roosevelt, which is kind of ironic when you think about it, he actually published a book on panda bears. Now, granted, it's probably all about how to hunt and kill the panda bear because it's, TR. But the point is that TR was not hunting unicorns and griffins and leprechauns. Theodore Roosevelt was only interested in real things that he could kill.
Yes.
So that's
one more thing we got in unauthorized.tv. Anthony HW sent a super chat over there. Thank you very much. Says, no question. Just wanted to see if you're paying attention to the SG chat. Yes, I am, my friends. I love Unauthorized. I love Social Galactic, and I love you guys over there. You're wonderful. So
yeah.
Cool.
So anyhow.
Oh, now we're getting super chats because they don't want us to leave. Why won't John spill the beans about his new? Oh, I forgot to talk about this. Alt Hero,
I literally told
novel.
You to talk about it.
You did tell me to talk about this. Alt Hero, the novel, thanks for the super chat, is going to finally be released. We're actually going to be splitting it into 2 books now. And Vox just sent me the files for a final edit to go through and pass. It's probably going to have to be quite an edit because I wrote this back in 2018. And I told Vox on the phone the other day, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much of a better writer now. I don't know if I can even look at this, but I'm going to have to. And so we're going to be going through this, getting this done, getting it polished up to be the best damn superhero novel of all time. I'm going to go there.
Yeah, Alt Hero Academy is the first book, and Alt Hero Covert is the second book.
Beautiful stuff. Thanks for that. Bane Sims Vomit, the Mainstream Media Alliance, see Ukraine. And yeah, I think I need to end this with some, because I declared myself Sad Puppies leader earlier this week once Larry was going at me, Vox, if you weren't aware. Because the Sad Puppies brand has been dead for a while. So I figured I should, if I'm the grifter here, I better sell some merch with this. I'm going to make some Sad Puppies merch.
Well,
and I think I'm
literally wearing a Rabid Puppy shirt.
You got your Rabid Puppies merch there too.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah. So we have this. We still have the original Sad Puppies logos and stuff. We can work it out. We can work it out. Oh, great. We can work it out.
Thanks, Fox. That's really nice of you. I'm going to end this with like some WWE style wrestling type of stuff because I've got, this is an entertainment show at the end of the day. And like we did at that convention back in the day, I'm here to entertain. And I know you guys are here for this. This is what we're... Sarah Hoyt, who isn't a real American. I am the Sad Puppies leader now. I'm going to make a change. Worldcon is over, and we are the new Sad Puppies Order!